This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are breaking down the ACC. We're going to be talking about, can anyone top Clemson in the ACC? What are some of the underdogs? What are some of the teams that we think are going to be competing? And what are the other teams that are just going to struggle immensely? Then we're also going to talk about the AFC East. Can anyone stop the Buffalo Bills? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are in the heat of the summer. Some might say it's a scorcher out there. Not really in Hungary. It was like 65 degrees yesterday, which is just weird to be in the middle of July and deal with that. But yes, the heat is here, as well as we're right in the firestorm of baseball season. Football's around the corner. Basketball's summer leagues here, and everything else in between. It's a full time of sports. But Josh, how are you handling the heat? Are you able to keep cool over there in Ohio? I know you are cool, but are you keeping cool?
So far, so good. Yeah. Let's see. Until today, we actually had a little bit of a dip in temperature, like some high 70s, low 80s situations, but it's back up. We had a really good 4th of July weekend over here too. It rained near the dinner time, and you're wondering if fireworks are going to be able to go off or not, but it stopped and held off plenty of time for a show to go off. And some friends and I watched it at one of their grandparents. They got a house on the Cedar Point Chaussee, so we watched it from the beach, the water and the overtop and everything. It was pretty good viewing. But like you said, yeah, we're in the heat of summer. I think MLB All-Star Game is next week. We got the Home Run Derby next week. We'll start seeing some trades ramp up over there. But hey, man, it's about that time of year though, where it's time to start talking some of these football.
It is true.
Some of these football teams, some of these conferences and divisions.
It is true, and I think. But before we get there, we do need to do our due diligence. From Josh and I know Texas and now New Mexico, I believe, has hit some terrible flooding. Our prayers go out to the families. It's kind of ironic. I don't know about you, Josh, but I don't know if you went to Christian camp at all or like summer camp. Like I never went like as a kid. Like I've helped at times, and my dad's actually here in Hungary now helping at a summer camp. And it's just kind of mind-boggling to me that like you show up to camp and like that's the last thing that crosses your mind, And I think it's a really sad story, and a reality. But at the same time, like I wish people would stop making it so like political or things like it's a sad story, and let's help figure out how to continue helping.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got on the agenda today. We're talking to ACC and the Power Four and the AFC East.
It's a combo. I love how we put the ACC with the Power Four, which I just think is funny.
These divisions kind of go together because we'll get into it, but I think the Buffalo Bills are massive heavy betting favorites to win that division once again. And Clemson, heavy, far and away ahead of all the competition. Yeah. It's more so like who's going to finish second and third in these places. So,
and do you want to explain it this year how we decided kind of to do some of these conversations? That way, we're not going through every single team and being here until forever.
We had some episodes well over 2 hours last year, and I mean, if you want to go like team by team, it's going to do that. But in the interest of time and trying to keep it, more of a jam-packed show, we're going to go over more of like some of the easy and tough schedules, some of the contenders, maybe a sleeper that we have. But the ACC, I think there's 17 teams there, and it's just so much time to go through that, and then we don't even really have a whole lot of time to get through the 4 teams in the AFC East. So it's going to be a little bit more. I don't know how quick it'll be, but
it's more like it's discussing the important things, not just having a bunch of like filler. Like sometimes I feel like we talk about, we're going to talk about Boston College, but like I'm sorry, like we don't need to spend 30 minutes on Boston College, right? Like I guess that's the kind of conversation we're trying to have. Yeah. It's like who's going to be there at the end.
But I think we can go ahead and start with Clemson.
Yeah, let's start with the ACC and good old Clemson, good old Dabo.
Dabo Swinney's still here. I know back in the spring we were going over a little bit of who everyone in the national media was saying was like the top 10 teams post-spring like after the game, the practices, the portal ended and all that, and there was a lot of talk about Clemson in the top five, and we were trying to figure out where all that came from. But
Yeah.
after doing my due diligence, Ben, I think it makes a lot of sense to not only have Clemson as the heavy favorite out of the ACC, but
Such a
also
bad
like one of the
conference. Such a bad conference.
it is, and that'll definitely play to their benefit throughout the season. But I think they actually legitimately could be as close to maybe what they were in that run where they were winning national championships with Trevor Lawrence. We had thought that they were on the decline. I think they went like 8-4, 9-3 the last 2 years, somewhere along those lines, and they got in the playoffs
Mm.
last year simply because they won the conference championship against SMU and got the auto bid. But Clemson looks like they could be coming back up, and maybe a reason for that is because Dabo's finally slowly adapting to what's more
Hmm.
modern college football today. We've seen him go out and get Will Held, spend some NIL money on the transfer portal to get a guy like that from Purdue to come and make an impact on the pass rush. Also go out and get a coordinator like Tom Allen. That's someone that's going to lead the defense. Was one of the more hot names out there. The year before that, or 2 years before that, he went out and got Garrett Riley, the hot name on the OC side. So we're seeing some small changes get made here that could play to Clemson's benefits. Not maybe to the point that you'd like to see it yet, but I think Clemson fans definitely got a lot to be excited about this year.
No, no, I agree with you. I think the one thing we've always said, and like I think why we both have like we're kind of shocked by that is because over the last few years, it just feel like Dabo hasn't adapted, and I think Clemson, I felt like the talent level they were bringing in, yes, they were talented dudes, but I felt like they were always, didn't develop all the way through, or they were just a shade lower than what I think the highest states, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Texases were out there. But if you look at the roster up and down, like they're a veteran roster for the most part. Clay Klubnik's coming back. Cade Klubnik's coming back. You saw about he went to the transfer portal like that. I think shocked everyone. I mean, the man's opening up to a new era. But look, if Clemson hits the transfer portal like some of these other teams are, and they develop their own guys, man, that makes Clemson a very dangerous school. And again, we've talked about how the ACC is not the most strong schedule, and the ACC fans are gonna be like, trying to toot their own horn, but it's like, let's be honest, like Clemson in the Big Ten or Clemson in the SEC, they at least last year they've finished maybe fourth or fifth, right? So at the end of the day, I think what Clemson's doing offensively, and I think bringing Tim Allen is actually a big win, because I feel like that's going to give them a little extra headway defensively, which I felt that there was a little suspect at times last year. But then Cade Klubnik just has to be the guy that I think we've all thought he should be. I don't know about you, he kind of reminds me of an Aller from Penn State, like a guy with potential that everyone talks about, but yeah, he can never seem to get over that hump. And so for me, I mean, I do think Clemson's the big favorite, and if they don't win this conference, I feel like that is Dabo's job. I at least in my eyes.
Yeah, it's definitely taken Cade a little while to get here. Definitely a highly touted recruit, and then you go from having at Clemson, you get Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence come through here, and you do really well, and you're looking for that next big quarterback, and it's looking like Cade could be that guy. But I'm not sure how many people thought he might be here for a fourth season, but definitely needed it. And you wonder how much more he can improve. Last year, he did take a pretty big step forward from his sophomore season. Ended up passing for 800 more yards. He almost doubled his touchdown total, cut down the picks too a little bit. Uh, at points, it looked like he could be a Heisman finalist until, it separated with Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty. But you get him back, and I think the other thing that Clemson was missing these last few years that finally could be coming back is that wide receiver room. When we just
Mhm.
spoke about the transfer portal getting Will Held, they also added Tristan Smith, 6'5", 205-pound wide receiver from Southeast Missouri State. Not a very big school, but over there had 934 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that could be like their jump ball receiver. Like they've had guys like Mike Williams and T. Higgins and Justin Ross come through here that they just haven't had. And then on top of that, they got some young guys in this receiver room that were breaking out last year. Antonio Williams will be the big one. He's a shorter receiver, but led the team last year at 904 yards, 11 touchdowns. And they had some freshman breakout, Bryant Wesco Jr. and TJ Moore. This is something that's made Clemson unique in the past too, and it's just why they've been able to be a contender over and over again. For a little while there, it actually was a legitimate debate about
Hmm.
who's wide receiver you in college. Is it Alabama? Is it Clemson? Is it Ohio State? And Clemson's kind of fallen out of that discussion these last few years. But with the room that they got this year, they could be finding their way back into it, I
And
think.
if I've learned anything about college football and just watching it, weirdly, college football 26, the video game came out, and I think they even show it well in this game, the video game as well. But specifically, I think when I've been watching football the last few years, what is the one what is the one like wild card you could have in your offense? And that is a 6'5", 6'6" wide receiver who can run and who can go up and get the ball. You look at Nick Harbor down at South Carolina. He's 6'5", runs like a 4.3 40. He 230 pounds. Like I think having a guy like that changes up how you do things. The Jeremiah Smiths of the world, because you can have these smaller receivers that have the 1,000-yard season, but this guy doesn't have to get 1,000 yards. All he's got to do is just be a threat. And I think if Cade can have that guy on the outside, and now these inside guys can do their job, I think it's going to make it a lot easier. And it goes back to the Renfro in the inside, and you have the big receivers on the outside. Like that's that's what it will remind everyone of this year.
Yeah. One other stat that I wanted to point out to you guys too. I think I want to make sure I get this right here. As far as returning production goes, this can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how your season was last year. In the Power Four, Clemson's got 16 starters offensively and defensively coming back from last
Yep.
year's team, and that's the third most in the Power Four, uh, and Notre Dame included in that. Only Illinois and Arizona State got more coming back than what they do. So, from a team that was in the playoffs last year, finished with was it 10-3 or 10-4 record when you include the loss to Texas? Definitely a lot to be excited about, like we said, and they've also been able to add a couple more pieces to it. So I think there's reason why Clemson's far and away the heavy favorite in this conference.
Oh yeah, and I think I really do believe Clemson's going to win this, but probably by 2 games. I think they'll have 2 games up on the second place. I just don't see them losing many games in this
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah, just scanning the schedule real quick. First and last is going to be tough. They got LSU at home. We'll find out which Tigers are the real Death Valley, I guess, in that game.
Yeah,
At the end of the year, South Carolina. South Carolina's been
dude,
on the
they're a
rise. They've been
sleeper
a
team,
problem for them too. Yeah,
sleeper team right now. I'm telling you this right now. Before we even get to them, whew.
yeah. And then as far as like the conference schedule goes, they do got to go to Georgia Tech. They host Syracuse. They're at North Carolina. They host SMU. They're at Boston College. They host Duke. They host Florida State. They're at Louisville.
Watch out,
They
Duke. Duke's a tricky game.
Yeah, it could be. They do avoid Miami, but they are playing pretty much all the teams that you'd expect to be contending for like that second, third, fourth spot. And then the out of conference schedule is tough. But still, with it being the ACC, it's not as tough as like what some of these SEC and Big Ten teams might be
Of
playing.
course, yeah.
But if they do go like 10-2 or 11-1 on this schedule, I think that's a solid season for Clemson. And they should be looking at a playoff spot.
Do you agree though that if let's say Clemson goes 8-4 again, do you think Dabo's on that hot seat, or is it possibility that he could even be fired if he goes like an 8-4 season with the talent he has this year?
Yeah,
Because he's
that's
been here so long, is it like to the point where they're like, okay, we get it. Why aren't you turning this around?
if for a reason to go 8-4, I'd like to know what happened first off. I don't know if that means that Cade Klubnik got hurt or if the Tom
No, let's
Allen
say
and
let's say
the
Cade
defense
Klubnik, let's
didn't
say
pan
Cade
out.
Klubnik was healthy, and let's just say they just played bad ball at times. Does that mean that he's done? Like
If
that's
if
my
this
curious question.
roster just straight up like together goes 8-4, that's crazy to me. But yeah, it's been that discussion. It's like Dabo's won you 2 national championships. Clemson has been for the last decade better than they've ever been any other decade before under
Yep.
Dabo. Like he's brought them here.
We've seen
But
guys fired for less.
yeah, we've seen guys fired for less too. Yeah, but the fact that he's still finishing near the top or at the top of the ACC, winning like double-digit games most of these seasons, I don't know if that's enough to hold him because the fan base, they've tasted what it's like, and I'm sure they want to get back there. And
Hmm.
just, being one of the better teams every year isn't just going to be enough to hold them over. They're going to want to see some Final Fours in this 12-team playoff format. They're going to want to see some playoff wins. They're going to want to see some of that. So if they go 8-4 with this squad this year with the expectations that they got, I don't know if that would be finally enough to push him out the door entirely. Along the fact that he
It'd be a
hasn't
Ryan Day situation. I think there'd be a lot of chirping, is what would happen. I think.
a lot of chirping. Yeah, I still don't think Clemson would part ways with him, but I think there would be the most chirping about it that there's ever been.
Yeah.
So that's Clemson. The other team that I think everybody will be talking about, I guess as a contender or like a for this conference is Miami.
Hmm.
Last year with Cam Ward, they were one of the most explosive offenses in the country, and Cam Ward was a big reason for that, finishing as a Heisman candidate, ends up being the number one
Hmm.
pick in the NFL draft. Very creative, very athletic, but the defense just allowed too many points, and they wasted just a generational offense. It seemed like kind of like what LSU did with Jaden Daniels. But this year, they got Carson Beck coming in. That was one of the
Oh
bigger transfer
gosh,
portal
that's the
moves.
worst. That's just a bad decision personally, but we'll get there.
It's Yeah, we definitely will
Um,
probably talk about that the most here. I mean, we can just go ahead and start talking
that's
about
just
that
dumb.
now.
Just dumb. Just a dumb move. That's just my opinion.
I think when you dive into it a little bit, Carson Beck broke out his it would have been his junior season with Georgia. He had Brock Bowers over there. They had
Hmm.
a really good run game, and he didn't have to do a whole lot to win them games because they had, everything else around him, and he just had to
Hmm.
manage it. And then this past season, we would have been expecting him to be not only a Heisman finalist, but one of those top five picks in the draft too. But he ended up falling off, and I think a reason for that might have been because
They had no
they
talent
needed to ask him.
offensively.
There wasn't much talent at the skill positions offensively. The rush offense finished, I think it was below 100th in rush yards per game, and that's very, very unlike Georgia in the Kirby Smart era. So Carson Beck was asked to do more, to be more of a focal point of the offense, and as a result, finished with, I think he had a couple more touchdowns, but he completed less percentage of his passes. He had more interceptions. He had less
Mhm.
yards. The pressure and the I guess expectation to be able to lead an offense. I don't know if it got too much for him or not, but similarly in Miami, I think he's going to be. Uh, I don't know if he'll be asked to do as much as he was over there, but he's going to be expected. I mean, following up Cam Ward, like to be pretty freaking close. So I guess this is where is Carson Beck going to be a gamer and rise to that occasion, or is he going to be, just what he was last year in this Miami team, maybe only wins 8 or 9 games?
Yeah.
I think this team goes as Carson Beck goes. They got I think four starters returning on offense and defense, including Francois, that big right tackle that they got. They aren't going to have as many weapons as they had last year, and Restrepo was one of those big ones that are going to be out. And from what I've heard everybody else say, Miami's got some dogs on defense. It was more so schematically that was the reason that they struggled last year, not for a lack of talent. And I mean, Miami's always gotten guys to play good defense for them. They always got athletes that are getting drafted. Mario Cristobal is a big recruiter, but I think Miami can go as far as maybe depending on which version of Carson Beck we get.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at this team and just go, I was kind of looking at it earlier. Schematically, yes, maybe that's why the defense struggled. I still struggle because, I've seen Ohio State have some of the best talent and then just they played terrible. They had defenses for many years that were bad. But the defense cannot be this bad again. I mean, at that point, you really have to start figuring out your identity because when it comes to Carson Beck, I just struggle because like if you can't do it with less, it's really hard for guys to see what is your actual peak potential. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So like if yes, you can do it with Brock Bowers in a really good run game, but yet you can't even barely do it when you have nothing. Like to me, like the best quarterbacks are able to make wave with what they have. And so for me, I want to say this team finishes second, which I think they end up will be finishing second or third. But the Carson Beck has to show up from 2 years ago, or else they're in big trouble for sure.
Yeah, schedule's not doing them a whole lot of favors either. They open up with Notre Dame at home. They got Florida Gators week 4. Then they got a bye week, Ben. Then they got to go to Florida State. Then they got to bye again. Then they got
Jesus,
to play one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 games to end the season.
that's called brutal.
Excuse me, 7 in a row to end the season. But that is brutal. I don't know how they are going to handle that. And then if they do make that conference championship, that is 8 in a row. But those those seven that they play in a row are host Louisville, host Stanford, at SMU, host Syracuse, host NC State, and then in the end of November they got to go to Virginia Tech and they got to go to Pitt.
Phew. It's a
Like
rough end of the year there.
if these were all like simmed games and stuff like that, I'd say like yeah, Miami like is capable of winning all these games, but these are humans, these are kids. If
Yeah.
you got to go 7 in a row, plus your Miami playing in the heat, and you got to go to like these cold weather environments at the end of the season, there's probably going to be some games there that they lose that they probably shouldn't have.
No, agreed. I always think schedules are funny. It just the way they
Yeah.
schedule things. But at the same time, it's football, man. And you just got to
Hmm.
show up and play, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at this, I'm thinking 9-3, 8-4 range. I mean, Notre Dame and Florida both could be losses, but they get to be the host team for those. So that's, I guess, good on their end, but there probably is going to be a couple. Maybe if Carson Beck is like exactly the old version of himself, they can go 10-2 this year. But I'm thinking more like 9-3 is what I'd be expecting from the Hurricanes.
Yeah, 9-3, 8-4, 9-3. That's kind of where I think I see them sitting for sure.
Now the real nitty gritty here, Ben. After like basically the top two, it gets interesting. Who do you see as like that? I guess that next group in the conference.
Um, I, I've kind of tossed this through a few times. Like, I think Florida State will bounce back. I don't know if they're in that next group. By the way, I don't know if you realize their quarterback is 5'9". I don't know if you knew that. Castellanos is like 5'9", which I'm sorry. When
Mhm.
have we ever seen a 5'9" quarterback succeed? Very, very not
Been a
often.
little while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, I guess.
Okay, the last one,
Close to
right?
that.
So, um, no, here's the kind of the teams I came up with. I came up with SMU. I think SMU is going to be a real sneaky team that, again, from last year, right? What they do? They just sneakily kind of came around and got wins when they needed to. I think SMU's in that group. I think I'm going to put Florida State in that group. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to be in that kind of that next phase of a group. I mean, outside of those two, maybe Virginia Tech. Maybe Virginia Tech. Depends on the Virginia Tech you get.
Man, we were
Um,
so high in Virginia Tech last year.
yeah, again, I don't know what you're going to get. Those are really my only three. I don't think North Carolina is going to win. They might win 6 games. I think Stanford and California are just going to be awful, atrocious. Um, I look at Wake Forest, not really there. Georgia Tech, I could see them slipping into that next group, but again, it depends on what does Haynes King do. What kind of guy do you get? So for me, I'm going to just stick with those three that I said, and then yeah, I just think the rest of the league is just going to be bad. I generally think it's going to be bad. Like I think if you put a Rutgers or a Purdue in this league, you couldn't tell the difference between those teams.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I guess SMU would be in this category. Last year they weren't
They played
sure who
well.
quarter. Yeah, they did play very well. They didn't have a very
They didn't have a
hard
quarterback.
schedule by any means, but yeah, eventually they ended up settling on Kevin Jennings, and that ended up being their guy, and he's back this year. They didn't have a very hard schedule, and that might have played into things a little bit too last year. This year, though, the schedule does get harder for SMU. At least out of conference, they play Baylor and TCU. They gotta go to TCU. They get to host Baylor. In conference, they're hosting Syracuse. They got to go to Clemson. They got to host Miami. They got to host Louisville. So probably three of the stronger teams in the conference right there. Uh, and additionally, on top of that, too, a team like this that's usually built through the transfer portal and also has expectations this year. You always wonder year to year, like was last year SMU's window, or is this year like still a year that can fit in that window? And then how will these guys, I guess, live up to the expectations that they got now? Because last
Hmm.
year, I think SMU being first year in that conference, nobody saw anything coming from that really.
No.
We weren't talking about SMU really. Nobody was. But this year, I think they are going to be talked about because they were a playoff team last year. They got a quarterback back. They got Rhett Lashley back at head coach, and it's like, are you guys going to, run it back this year? You got some harder teams that you got to play.
Hmm.
What version of you are we going to get, or are you guys going to lose that edge? So I think SMU's in that category for sure. I would throw Georgia Tech in that category also.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for Georgia Tech to get here. They were sent so far back with that triple option, for all those years, and they're trying to get back to like being like what everybody thinks they could be. They're like a sleeping giant over there in Atlanta. We saw them last year go to 5 overtimes with the Bulldogs in that game, eventually lost. We know that I think Brett Key's their head coach. That offensive line is going
Hmm.
to be good. Haynes King did have a nice breakout season last year. We were wondering what that might look like. Transferring from Texas A&M didn't really work out over there, but pretty athletic kid, ended up panning out pretty well over there. But he's back this year. Uh, Georgia Tech, I mean, the schedule has been tough for them uh, the last several years. And I mean, this year they got to go to Colorado out of conference. They always got that Georgia game at the end of the year. And then just kind of picking a couple other games that could be tough. Duke, Syracuse for them, Pitt. It's a little easier than it's been in the past, but I'd say keep an eye on Georgia Tech. And then Louisville's that other team.
Oh, Louisville. That's the one I forgot. I've been
Louisville,
sitting here thinking, what is that other team I forgot? Louisville's the other team I
Louisville
forgot to
would
put in there.
probably be my pick to finish
Yeah.
third.
That's who I was
Uh,
going to put in that group
yeah,
as well.
yeah. Jeff Brom has been a really good fit here for Louisville. I'm gonna go ahead and check something here real quick while we're talking that I forgot to check out. But he's been really good coaching at his alma mater. Under Jeff Brom over at Louisville, they have gone 10-4 and 9-4. Uh, with Jeff Brom, he's brought in some transfer quarterbacks. They've all had their best season of their career playing for him. Like last year, would anyone have thought Tyler Shuck was going to be a second round pick in the draft?
No.
I don't think so. He made him that guy. This year, he's
Yeah.
got Miller Moss coming in from USC. We saw flashes from Miller Moss over there in the
Yeah.
bowl game in particular a couple years ago. And then at times last year, I think he topped 260 or 280 yards a handful of times last year, but that's who's going to be quarterbacking over at Louisville now. So if the trend holds up, we could expect Miller Moss to have his best season with the Cards. They seem to have some sound defense over there as well. Uh, I could see Jeff Brom. I don't know like what he wants to do as far as coaching, but very similar to what Kyle Whittingham has done over at Utah. I could see him like kind of doing that at Louisville. Like
Yeah.
maybe not being like the best team ever, but a consistent contender in the conference and a team that like you don't want to play. We've seen them go out and get guys like Notre Dame before. Like they've won some big games.
Speaking of a team, speaking of a team that should be in a conference,
Yeah. We will talk about Notre Dame too today, since all their teams are in the ACC except
and
the football
they're
team.
too
But
wimpy to go to the Big Ten.
yeah, we're kind of grouping them over here in that. Um, I guess the last two teams that I would discuss in this, I guess next tier would be Pitt. We know that they play gritty defense. Pat Narduzzi likes
Yeah.
to do that. Eli Holstein was a nice quarterback last year, and they were undefeated for a little bit last year, and then they just, the rails fell off.
Hmm.
So guess we'll see what this year holds. And then Duke, they brought in that
Mensa.
transfer
Yeah.
quarterback.
Mensa. He's a
Wait,
freak.
yeah, Mensa, as a freshman last year,
$8
did really
million.
well at Tulane. $8 million for these next 2 years as what the report is. So you're giving the kid a lot of money over there. Uh, with Manny Diaz as head coach and then Mike Elko over there before him, the defense, you can expect to be good. And then I guess we'll see what the quarterback play is. There's a lot of money that you're going to be
Oh yeah.
counted on to do well over there for sure.
Boosters are gonna be on your butt.
Yeah. Uh, and then kind of going there, just a couple other thoughts on some of these other teams. Syracuse, Ben, they were that team last year that had maybe the easiest schedule ever, and Kyle McCord broke out last year, and They ended up having a decent season, I guess, by their standards. This year, it definitely gets harder, though. They got to play Tennessee, they got to play
Oof.
Clemson, they got to play Duke, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Miami, Notre Dame. Basically, everybody that we already said that we expect to be a contender in this conference. Even with Angeli, I think his quarterback was the backup at Notre Dame last year. Definitely going to be a hard year for them over there. And then the other team that I was gonna, I guess, toss into this too, is Virginia. Not really a football power over there, but they kind of got that one of those super easy schedules too that Syracuse got. They got to play out of
They're
conference
going to throw
Coastal
it like 80
Carolina.
times a game.
They might. Coastal Carolina, William and Mary out of conference. Uh, in conference, or Washington State's another out of conference team. But in conference, they just got NC State, they got Stanford, Florida State, Louisville will be a hard one, North Carolina, Cal, Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech. Like it's a manageable schedule there. And Chandler Morris, who we haven't heard that name in a while, was at TCU, got benched for Max Duggan, then was at North Texas. This is like his fourth team that he's transferred to, so an older guy. But who knows? An older guy with an easy schedule. There's I guess some potential for something to happen there. And then North Carolina, of course, will be the other team that everybody's talking about because of Bill Belichick. They got a super easy schedule too, Ben.
I still don't see them winning like what, maybe 7 games, I think. Maybe 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 7 wins would be a successful first year for Bill Belichick. They had 40 some transfer kids come in. They do got to play Clemson, but everything else from that's pretty manageable. Richmond, Charlotte, Cal, Virginia, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake, Duke, NC State. We'll see what happens there, but it could be a I guess we'll see what happens. I'm sure a lot of people will be talking about North Carolina because of Bill,
Mhm.
because of his girlfriend, and people still don't really know how they met or what she's all about. But North Carolina will be a talk in this conference
Just
for
keep
sure.
her away from the football activities. Solve your problem.
Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned Florida State. I haven't really talked about Florida State. They got to be better than 2-10, though, right?
With a 5'9" quarterback? I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. Castellanos was at Virginia, I think, last year.
No,
So it's
BC.
Boston College. Okay.
Yes, and then he like quit on the team, which that's also a reason I don't like him.
Yeah. Florida State, they did end up hitting the portal again. That's been something that's been a part of them. Like when they were undefeated, like basically everybody that was a star for them was a transfer, and then they all left and they really fell off. And it wasn't all on DJU last year. There was a
Mhm.
lot of, I guess, holes all over that team if you're going to only win 2 games. But yeah, Florida State. If you're a Florida State fan, Ben, what are you hoping to do this year after winning just two
Oh,
games? Like,
look like you're an actual team. I know that sounds very like normal to say, but I think generally like look like a team that can put it together. If that means you win, get bowl eligible, you go 6-6. I think that's a good victory for this year. And as long as you can maintain that team without separations, guys leaving out of nowhere or vice versa, I think that's a successful season. You have the leadership's in the right way. You're, let's say, 6-6, 7-5. That to me would be a successful season.
yeah, tough schedule for sure. They got out of conference, they got Alabama, and they got Florida. In
Mm.
conference, they got to play Miami, they got to play Clemson, they play Pitt, they play thought there was one more on here. No, that was it. But I mean, if they can go 6-6 in there, I
Yeah.
I would think Florida State's feeling better. Uh, with how much money you're paying Mike Norvell, you're hoping for better, especially you go undefeated. You never expect to go 2-10 the next season, but given that, got to get back to like I guess getting recruiting up. Like the
Yeah.
teams that end up being most successful are always going to be the ones that
Like a
got
high
most of
station
their
come
talent
down.
homegrown
Yeah, high station come down there and steal your guys. Texas shouldn't come there and steal your guys. Like you should be competing against Miami. That's the team you should be competing against on those Florida guys.
for sure. So there really wasn't anyone else here that I really wanted to talk
Same.
about. But yeah, that's kind of like what the ACC is looking like, I think. And the way that this conference is, of course, one of these teams that we didn't talk about, like Wake Forest or like Stanford or like Cal, is going to be that sleeper team that ends up coming up and being one of these contenders, right? But
That's no, I mean that's normally how this conference works.
for when they had divisions, back when they had divisions, I think it was the Coastal Division had all seven teams win the division like in 7 different years. It was crazy.
Jeez.
And then Clemson was just, chugging away in their
Owning
division.
it.
But yeah. So that's a picture of what the ACC is looking like. There's a lot of quarterback movement around here. There's a lot of returning quarterbacks up here, but mostly top heavy. And really, the only question is who's gonna like stack up in that second tier, really. But we got some AFC East
Or
discussion
do
to
we want
talk.
to briefly talk about Notre Dame? Because I know we said we briefly
Oh,
would
yes,
cover.
I forgot Notre Dame. Yes. So Notre Dame doesn't fit into the ACC, but we are going to talk about them at this point because they're one of college football's powers, and they got to be discussed in this.
They should go to the Big Ten, but that's the point.
Yeah, I think they're more like Big Ten with style and location, but since all the other teams are in the ACC, we'll go ahead and include them over there. What's your thoughts on Notre Dame, Ben? Or what are your thoughts on Notre Dame, Ben? I
Uh,
think last year was
I
incredible.
I think they're coached really well. I think they have. I think not just because he's a Buckeye, but I really like the way he coaches, the way he leads. I think even the championship game against Ohio State, right? Like Ohio State got up to like what was it 21-7 lead. Like they could have really shut it off, and Notre Dame didn't. They kept fighting. He kept saying one more. That's one. We got to get another one. Like to me, that shows leadership, which is something that I feel like Florida State doesn't have, but Notre Dame does have. I think Notre Dame also has a really good up and coming quarterback that's going to be happening. Again, it's kind of like the same as Ohio State. They go to the national championship game with a bunch of older guys that have been around, and now I feel like you have somewhat of a transition. You still have Jeremiah Love, who might be the best running back in college football right now. Um,
Hmm.
I say you hand the ball off 35 times to him and see what happens. You're always going to have a great offensive line. Their offensive line is going to be very good. Their defense has some of the best young dudes out there. Again, I think it's going to be kind of like an Ohio State defense where they're going to have their struggles, I think Ohio State defense will as well. But I think they're going to do enough to go out and maybe win 9, 10 games, but get back to the college football playoff. But I think leaning on Jeremiah Love is going to be the biggest part of this season.
I think so too. Yeah. Usually I hate Notre Dame, but just the run that they had last year, I couldn't help but fall in love with that roster,
Yeah,
that team specifically. Riley Leonard, being the dog that he was, so many guys like falling down with injuries, and it's just, next man up, they come up. And because of that, they got five guys in the offensive line this year that are all going to have experience, at
mm,
least some starts on their resume. When they went into the game with Texas A&M last year, I think their offensive line at that time had a total of 6 starts. So they've learned a lot from what they got there. You can always expect Notre Dame to have a decent offensive line.
yeah.
Running back, yeah, Jeremiah Love, I agree, could be contending to be the best in the country. Um, this year they actually got a homegrown quarterback with CJ Carr.
Yeah.
Uh,
Grandson of famous Michigan coach Lloyd Carr.
yeah, yeah. The last several years they've been going out and getting transfer guys like Riley Leonard, like Sam Hartman, like Jack Cohen. But this year they got a guy that they actually recruited in the building that's going to be taking over. So that is going to be something new. Last year, the wide receiver room wasn't the greatest, but at least out of Notre Dame circles, they're feeling better about what they got over there.
Great House
Uh,
did a great game against Ohio State.
mhm. Defensive wise, Leonard Moore's back at corner. They
He's a
also
freak.
bring in Chris Ash, who you guys are familiar with in Buckeye
Yeah.
Country, very good
Failure,
defensive
but you know.
coordinator. Was at Texas last year and called a really good defense up there. So when I look at Notre Dame and I see what they got coming back and what they could be, I'm feeling like a 10-2 year for them. I would expect them to be back in the college football playoff. Uh, as far as the schedule goes, they do have that next game with Texas A&M this year. Uh, I think we mentioned the Miami game that they
Yeah.
got. Uh, trying to find the schedule right now because the first 4 weeks, we're going to learn a lot about them, I believe.
You also have the USC game, those kind of games, which again,
Yeah.
high stakes, but it's perfect for them.
Yeah. Okay, so it starts off, they got Notre Dame, Texas A&M, then Purdue. Then they got to go to Arkansas, which on the road against an SEC team. Then they host Boise State, who doesn't have Genty, but they got Madsen back at quarterback. Expect them to be kind of decent. They do have USC at home. They got Navy, the triple option, that could beat you up. And then they got Pitt after that, another defense that we just said, could be tough. And then they end the year with a home game against Syracuse and they go to Stanford. So not too much difficulty there, but for the first, I guess, half of the season, I'd say that that's the chunk that they got to get through, and it could be smooth sailing
Oh
after
yeah,
that.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%. Just gotta get through that chunk.
yeah, yeah. I would think Notre Dame can go 10-2 though. That would be my expectation with what they got coming back, what they've added. I feel really good about the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Now we can discuss some NFL over
Yes.
here. Yes, a lot too. I'll discuss over here, Ben. Uh, the AFC East has been won by the Buffalo Bills. I believe it's 5 years in a row. It's the second longest streak, only trailing the Kansas City Chiefs as far as teams that have won their division.
Yeah.
And looking across the field right now, I wouldn't expect it to be any different this year.
It's you know, I joke with our play not a really joke. It's what other people joke about our team here in Budapest is that we are the Buffalo Bills of Hungarian league football. And what I mean by that is that we can win in the regular season and look really good. When we get to the playoffs, it's just like you forgot how to play football. And that's basically what the Buffalo Bills are in a capsule.
That's the thing is the Chiefs have gotten in their way almost every single year. They're 0-4 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. And I believe most of those games, okay, the last three games combined to be a difference of 12 points, I believe it was.
Got to capitalize in the playoffs, and they don't.
Yeah. Situational defense has hurt them before too, as far as like third downs and fourth down defense and stuff like that. Last year, they weren't really good at third down at all, but they forced so many turnovers to kind of mask that. And then the offense, we went into this season. I was wondering, like, what are they going to have? Like, how good is Josh Allen? Because more than ever, he's going to have to put this team on his back.
Yep.
And then he absolutely went out and did that. I don't think they had a receiver get more than 800 yards last year, whatever it was. But uh, Josh Allen is that dude, and they got a they got a little bit better, I think. They added Joshua Palmer to be wide receiver over there. You hope that Keon Coleman can break out a little bit. James Cook can maybe, take that next step forward. But as far as Buffalo Bills go, as long as Josh Allen is over there, I'm not really worried about
Oh, well, I'm not either.
anything over there. As far as winning the division, the defense I would like to see, be a little bit more clutch in some of those big moments. Uh, they added Joey Bosa. That should, make a better pass rush. Matt Milano will be
Oh,
fully
I forgot
healthy
Joey
coming into
Bosa's
this
there.
year.
I totally forgot
Yeah,
Joey Bosa's there.
yeah. So, as far as the AFC East goes over here, I'm feeling good about Buffalo to at least win the division. Bet MGM has their over/under win total at 11.5. I would think that that'd be about right. We can read the schedule once you give me your thoughts on Buffalo.
No, I do think this is going to be again on Allen. I think he's going to have to really buckle down on executing all the way through. I think he's going to lead the team that way. And I think just because the division is so poor at times, and just the AFC in general seems to be at times great, other times not so great. So I'm going to go 12 wins is what I'm going to say for the Bills.
Yeah. Looking at some of the big games that they got, they'll host the Ravens. They will be at Atlanta. They will host the Chiefs. They will host the Bucks. They'll be at Houston, at Pittsburgh, host Cincinnati, host the Eagles. So there's some big teams on here, but a lot of those get to be on their home turf too.
Yeah, that's key.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give them I think 12. I think they can go 12-5 here with this schedule. And then just being Buffalo, I think they're one of the better teams in the league. Would expect them to be the case. Second place, Ben, is where it gets interesting. I think I'm going to go a little bold here with my second place prediction
Josh, you never
and
go bold.
say, I know I never go bold. This is always Ben's thing, so I'm stepping on my comfort zone here and I'm putting it out there
So
that
I
I
should just
think
be content. Is that what you're saying?
maybe you'll be bold like me. but
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
putting it out there that I think the New England Patriots will finish second place.
Dude,
Take that leap forward.
what bed did you wake up on this morning? Goodness gracious.
The same one I've been waking up on the last several years, Ben.
It must be getting old. It's that new house feeling you're trying to change a little bit. No, I to me, oh, dude, that's stretching it for me. I think that
Yeah, I
Patriot.
can tell you're a little blown away.
I think the Patriots are going to be a little bit better. I really do. I think they're going to be a win. They're going to be, I think, a 7 to 8 win team. I think, at least in my mind. I still think somehow is the Dolphins are going to just somehow finish second with like 9 to 10 wins. I don't trust that anyone's going to be healthy at the quarterback position down there or even receiver position. And we all know how bad Tua is in the cold. So for me, I'm going to go Dolphins and then slim right behind. I'm going to go Patriots and then the Jets are winning like 3 games or 4 games.
All right. Well, I had Miami at third, so we can kind of talk about both Miami and New
Okay.
England right here. So New England last year went 4-13. They had the rookie quarterback, of course, Drake May, Pro Bowl quarterback Drake May, mind
Oh,
you.
gee.
They lost 6 one-score games. The offense didn't really have a whole lot of weapons. The
No.
offensive line wasn't great. This year, new head coach Mike Vrabel in the building. They had the most money to spend in the offseason out of every team, and they really attacked the defense, making that better. Went out and got Milton Williams to pair up with Christian Barmore at the defensive tackle spot. They went out and got Stephon Diggs at receiver.
Mhm.
The injury last year shortened his season, but you hope that he can get back to a little bit of the way that he was last year. They go out and get Will Campbell to boost the offensive line.
Mhm.
Uh, they also drafted Kyle Williams, and I think they went out and got Matt Collins too at wide receiver. So there's improvements all around. They spent a lot of money, specifically on the defense, and you expect
Mhm.
that with a defensive coach like Mike Vrabel. Uh, so all that being said, they also got like I think the second easiest schedule I read uh, in the league too. And when you run through it, it's like okay, we got Pittsburgh, we got Buffalo in the division, of course, all those teams that they got to play. Um, they play the Falcons, they play the Bucks, they got the Bengals, they got the Ravens. It's like you run through it and you're thinking, this could be like an 8 or 9 win season for New England. And that could be good enough to finish second in this division, like we said, with the questions surrounding Miami and the Jets too. It's kind of a crapshoot right there for second. But I think
I would
that
love if the Browns played in this division. They actually might have a chance to finish second.
oh, totally, dude. But yeah, it's more so out of the fact that it really could be anybody's, I guess,
Yeah.
division after Buffalo, like for second place. And I think New England, I like a lot of the changes that they made. Uh, be defensive first, go out and get Drake May some help for the offensive line and some guys to throw to,
Yeah.
and maybe they can come out here and win 8 or 9. BetMGM's over under win totals 8.5, so that's right about like what you would guess. So feeling good about New England finishing second. But
Yeah.
then Miami, you said second, so give me the case for Miami at second.
I think just to me I'll be honest with you, it's a coin flip because like I said, I don't see Miami winning 11 games. I see them winning 9 to 10. I see Patriots winning 7 to 8. So I feel like they're right in that same spot. I think it's just games going maybe a little bit their way. I look at Tua. I think Tua. There's just something about it. I feel like
I
he's
think this whole season rides on Tua,
yeah,
honestly.
but I think he's got a comeback season on his books, right? Like I really feel like I'm hoping by now they can figure out like what kind of system to work with him to keep him healthy. Because I would not be shocked if, look, if he, let's say he only plays 9, 10 games, I could see them going like, we're pulling the plug. We're either going to spend big money next year in free agency or they're going to get a top quarterback. And so in the draft. So for me, they just have to be careful. And I think you have to kind of figure out like, hey, maybe we can't do a lot of RPOs because people don't realize like RPOs, your risk to get drilled as a quarterback, right? If you don't hand the ball off in time, if you're trying to throw it because you're reading the running back as he's going through and then also seeing what's open. Look, there's a lot of risks there involved as well. And I think with Tua, it's just when he's healthy, he was throwing dimes and guys were getting open. Now the question is defensively, can they keep it up? Because they seem to be making moves getting Minka Fitzpatrick would again they drafted the guy, they traded him because they didn't really see a fit, and all of a sudden, I don't know. Anyways, I think their defense is going to have a lot of holes to fill. So again, it's a coin flip. You could go either way with either of these teams.
Yeah, there's actually when I was digging into some of these teams, there's talk about Mike McDaniel maybe being on the hot seat, which is crazy because he was like the sexiest hire,
But
just
it
a
would make sense
few
though.
years ago. But yeah, last year they finished 8-9, missed the playoffs. That actually was good enough to finish second in this division. That's how
He's
bad it
so bad.
was. But let me break down Tua, Ben. The last 2 years against teams 500 or worse, he's gone 16-2.
Oof.
Against teams above 500, he's gone 1-9.
Yeah.
Last year also, he only played 11 games. They went 6-5 in those. They
Hmm.
went 2-3 with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, and they went 0-1 with Skylar Thompson. This year, the quarterback room has Zach Wilson and then Quinn Ewers.
Hmm.
If I got Zach Wilson coming in at quarterback, I'm not feeling too confident about my chances, especially when we already struggle against teams 500 or better with Tua in the building.
Hmm.
Uh, Defense, like you said, a lot of holes. Holland left at safety and free agency. They go out and get Fitzpatrick in this trade, but they lose Jalen Ramsey to make that happen. Tight end wise, they're losing Jonnu Smith in that trade also, but they're going out and bringing Darren Waller out of retirement.
It's
Uh, the off the offensive line lost Teron Armstead. The defensive line lost Calais Campbell. Uh, there's definitely a lot here that could implode
but
Miami's
again,
season to me.
the that division is bad.
But the division's bad, right? So we're not necessarily asking the Miami Dolphins make the playoffs. They finished second last year with 8 wins. They could definitely do that
Mhm.
again. But
Mhm.
yeah, just running through, I see a lot of potential for chaos over here. And as far as the schedule goes, like it's not terribly difficult. They got, outside the teams of the division, they got to play the Chargers, they got to play the Falcons, they got the Ravens, the Bills, the Commanders, the Steelers, Bengals, Bucks. Like these are all teams that could be like around that 500
Mhm.
range or above. Given to his track record, it may not be looking too good. But yeah, Dolphins second I got them finishing third, but I see a lot of potential for chaos here. And that takes us to the Jets, who I guess we
Oh, so bad.
unanimously agree is bad.
So
And that's
bad.
even with Justin Fields playing quarterback.
I love Justin. I just wish he would have went somewhere that they know how to run an organization and that he didn't have to pay so many taxes that he basically has no money left, But I just the Jets are so annoying because it's like the Browns but without trying to be better like the Browns did. Right? The Browns did a whole overhaul. Kind of, what was that? 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever. And I just feel like the Jets every time you think there's a chance for them to get better, and it's like they ruin it or they overspend, or you had the Rodgers situation when he gets hurt. But I feel like it starts with a culture thing, and that's again not talked about enough, especially in the NFL circles. I think it has to be because I think if you set the culture right, like the Chiefs, like the Steelers, and those kind of teams, then that changes things. So that's really my thoughts on it.
They got a really hard start to the season too. They got to host Pittsburgh, host Buffalo, go to Tampa, go to Miami, host Dallas. Then they got the Broncos in London.
They could
But
go over.
yeah, Justin Fields, we saw him play better in Pittsburgh, and that was in large part, because he cut
Better
down on the
coaches.
turnovers. Yeah, and that's the other thing is like really good culture in Pittsburgh. Say what you want about how they've been finishing, right around 500, but Mike Tomlin's making guys like Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky like look good over
Hmm.
here. They got maybe not the most talent, but they're getting the most out of it. So good culture over there. Go to the Jets where the culture's not that great. And they won 5 games last year. They got a new coach, defensive focused, coming in. Um, as far as like his weapons go, I mean, Garrett Wilson and then everybody else, I guess the wide receiver room, running backs, Brees Hall will be back and Braylon Allen tag teaming over there. And Justin's going to do a decent amount of running himself. So
Yeah.
they're going to want to be run first. The defense, I would expect to continue to still be good. That's been, I guess, the one nice thing about being a Jets fan is just the offense can never stay on the field very long. The
Yeah.
defense gets worn down. So can Justin, I guess, do any better than what Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson have done the last 2 years. I don't know. I think what's going to be key is going to be running the clock with
Hmm.
this run game, giving the defense some breaks. Uh, One other stat I thought was interesting, Ben, when the defense has scored 23 points against Justin Fields, I think he's never won a game.
Wow.
That's not to say that he's never scored 23 in a game because defense could have scored less than
Yeah.
that and they could have gone off for 30 or something like that. I didn't look that far into it, but it's like anytime the opponent has scored 23 points, he's never won. And I'm like, that's interesting.
Such weird stat, but you know what?
Yeah.
I like.
When he's won games, they've all been low scoring. So that's I guess the key to success here,
Yeah.
if there is going to be any. But I'm expecting the Jets to win maybe not more than 4 or 5 games
I'll
like
go
what
like
they did
three or
last year.
four.
Yeah. Well, that is our AFC East there. Any other thoughts you wanted to touch on, or maybe any other news going on in sports in the last couple minutes we could talk about?
No, I think there's nothing really big going on. I do know that there, obviously we've had the F1. We've had F1 going on, which is, I guess McLaren is leading. I don't really stay too much into it, but you have that. You have tennis. There's a first woman in the Wimbledon final for the first time since like the youngest. I think it's the youngest um, player from America since Williams' sister back in 2004. Right. So we've had that going on. And then we have baseball. And let's just take a few moments to talk about how bad our teams are. About a
Yeah.
month and a half ago, I had joked with you about how the Guardians were finally winning outside of beating the Reds because the Reds beat them. Like, oh, they're in great spot. They are now double digits behind first place. The Reds about 5 days ago had just went 4 games above 500. And I was like, dude, we only have like 6 games, 7 games left till the All-Star break. There's a good shot they could get themselves maybe even a lead in the wild card. They were a game and a half back in the wild card, 8 games back in first place. And they decided to lose 3 games, no, 4 games in a row. Right? Go back to 500, which by the way, it's so funny. They've been at 4 games over 500 15 times this year. You know how many times they've been at 5 games over 500?
None?
Zero. Every time they get there, they lose like three. Actually, every time they get there, they have multiple losing streaks, like multiple games. So for me, it's I don't know about you. It's frustrating because now I don't know, are the Reds sellers at the deadline? Are they buyers? Because they're really only, I think, 3.5 out, I think, of first of the wild card, which again,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah,
that
that wild
much.
card is still close, and the
Yeah.
first place I think is still like 6 or 7 games out, maybe.
So I don't know what they're gonna do. I would like them to get a bat. You know, they keep saying like there's these things that go like Stephen Kwan, and then there's a couple other names that come up. I'm like, guys, have you looked at the outfield? They all have a combined like 7 home runs.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the Reds just need to get guys healthy. Hunter Green has not been healthy since May. They need to figure out Chase Burns because he had a great first start and has looked atrocious since then. And then everything else, I think Andrew Abbott, he's been great. He's been the ace this year. De La Cruz is really coming on, hitting both ways. So again, the pieces are there. I was telling Josh for the show, the thing that really frustrates me about Terry Francona is that every time there's a guy that has an error or a bad game or even a bad pitching game, he always tries to make an excuse, which I don't think he tries to, but it's the way it comes across, and it's really frustrating. So
Yep.
that's
That's
what I would say for the Reds.
that's some of the frustration with Terry Francona. You can ask Cleveland fans about Ahmed Rosario and other guys like that. Like he has his guys and he sticks with them, and he's not really gonna change as far
Mhm.
as that goes. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's like just some old school
I think it
mentality or
is.
if
I
he's
think
a
it is.
player's
Yeah.
coach or something like that. But yeah, talking from the Cleveland side, we ended up losing 10 in a row,
Oh,
and then we ended up sweeping the hottest team in baseball, the Houston Astros.
no one ever
Uh,
knows. Baseball is a weird sport, man. It's such a
yeah,
weird sport.
in that 10-game losing streak, we got swept by the Tigers, and the most frustrating part about that was the Tigers scored 4 runs in that series,
Oh,
and it was enough to sweep us because that's how bad our offense is. That's how bad our bats are. You run through the roster or the order, and you're just like, geez, it's a new lineup every day. We got so many platoon bats. It's basically Jose Ramirez, Stephen Kwan, and everybody else. All these 4A guys. Um,
yeah.
I guess if you're looking for a silver lining, if you're Cleveland, nobody has played more teams that have a 500 record or better than we have. So very front-loaded schedule. Uh, Gets a little bit easier later on. The months of July and August do play to our favor. I'm not too optimistic though. I honestly hate the roster. I hated the roster going into the year. I think I said that we're looking at maybe third place, second at best going into it.
So,
Luckily for us, the division outside of Detroit has also been bad. So second place is still good, but you could go second in this division,
dude,
easily miss the wild card
The
still.
Reds would be like in a perfect spot in the AL, man. If they were just in the AL, the Reds are in fourth place and they're
Yeah.
at 500 right now. The thing that frustrates
Yeah.
me about the funny thing about the Guardians is there's a meme I saw where it said, "Please, Dolan, can you just get a catcher that can hit over 140 and at least maybe throw at least one guy out at second base?"
Yeah, we did lose a game because Bo Naylor let a ball go through his legs because he was trying to frame it. These
Yeah,
catchers today, it's all about framing and stuff, and so pass balls get by. It's like, dude, that ball should not have gotten past you and ended up costing us a game.
and you don't even hit good enough to even to us complain, right?
Yeah, the only reason he's sitting is because Austin Hedges is our backup catcher, and it's
To
like
also
still an obvious better option.
to make you even hurt more is that there's rumors swirling that Detroit Tigers might make a trade for Paul Skeens. That would not help your guys' thing over there in the AL Central. But the one thing I do want to talk about is Paul Skeens before we finish the show up. I want to read his stats for you right now. I want to read his stats. He is. You're gonna love this. He is 4-7 with a 194 ERA with one complete game. He's pitched 116 innings. He is struck out 125 batters. They're hitting 186 against him with a whip of 0.92. With a guy's stats like that, you would think that he's like 8-0, 9-0. It is wild, but I just want to get your take on Paul Skeens, and then also, what about the take about what if he would end up in Detroit? How you would feel?
I think his record I saw last was 4-7. He hadn't had a decision even in his last seven starts, and I think he's recorded one win in his last 13 starts or something. Super brutal like that. That's how bad Pittsburgh's been. If Detroit ended up pulling off a trade, I think first off, if there ever was going to be a team, it could be Detroit because they have so much
So
talent in
much
their farm
talent.
system
Yeah.
right now. So they have a lot of pieces that they can afford to depart from and still be good because the big league roster right now is good. It's young. Uh, but I still don't think that Pittsburgh, with this much team control still over Skeens, is going to do that
They're going to do
because,
like what the Reds do. They're going to wait until the last year of his contract and then sell him for basically nothing.
well, I don't know if they'll sell him for basically nothing, but they got team control. That's like the one guy that they can put butts in seats, I guess. Like if they
Yeah.
traded him on his rookie contract just in year two, that'd be absolutely like that's committing suicide as a general
Yeah.
manager almost.
Yeah.
So I could see them parting ways with him later on if they don't end up offering him some kind of crazy max, which Pittsburgh never really does. But right now, I think to be able to pull him out of Pittsburgh, you'd have to have some kind of insane package, even more than what the Nationals got for Juan Soto.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with De La Cruz. Like people have talked about, will the Reds think about trading De La Cruz in the offseason? I'm like, they have him
Heck
for at
no.
least, I think it's another 4 years. And it's
Yeah,
like, and I know that they've talked with him about an extension, but again, he has Burris as his agent. So that's like basically guaranteeing the Reds will never
yeah,
sign him. But I think even if the Reds wait, let's say 2 years, and he has 2 years left on team control, you sell him for maybe and as my dad said, sell him for your top five picks. Top five dudes. Say you give me your top five prospects with one major league ready player, then hey, you can have them. And honestly, I like that idea. Like if you get to that point, reload times five rather than do what the Reds have done in the past, which they get rid of a guy and then they get like one decent prospect and then one like, oh, he's ready to be a major leaguer right now. And it's like, dude, I'd rather just get a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds and say, let's develop them and get them our way. Or just be the Braves and sign the guy when you should.
yeah. With prospects, you're rolling the dice. Like I can remember the CC Sabathia trade that Cleveland made. They brought in Matt Laporta, and that was supposed to be the big name out of that, and he ended up being a flop. Zach Jackson ended up being a flop pitcher, and then Michael Brantley ended up being the one guy that panned out for a little bit for a
I believe he was a throw-in
solid
one as
hitter.
well in that. I think he was like a throw-in name at the
He
well.
might have been the player to be named. I don't know. But then you got trades like the Juan Soto trade, where the Nationals got James Wood and all these other guys that seem to be panning out pretty good. It's like, okay. But yeah, it doesn't always pan out. But if you can get like a team's top five prospects, surely like a couple of those are going to pan out.
Yeah.
And if you can also do it while there's still 2 years of team control for De La Cruz instead of, having half a season like a rental at the deadline. That might work out. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
and I mean he's going to end up in LA. Like there's been multiple pictures of him with LA Dodgers hat on, and I just know that's where he's going to end up. Is going to be in LA. Just it's. Now I've heard though, because of the supposedly the there's a couple years there could be a chance for a strike, which means there could be a cap ceiling happening possibility. Which, oh, if that would happen,
yeah,
I would be so
that's
happy.
talking player salary cap.
That would
Oh,
be so nice for us small markets, considering the Reds have the cheapest owner. By the way, he is only worth 300 million. So yeah, I would love to have that, so we could actually afford players that everyone else can.
yeah. I guess the way that you'd get around that is to keep deferring money, right? Like if you're the Dodgers.
But they said that there suppose there's gonna be rules in there where you can only defer so much an amount, because then you might as well just go back to the no salary cap at that point. So there's like
Yeah.
they're basically saying, and the Dodgers are like all gripe, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you should give away some of your nice little handiworks that we can have. So
Deferred money, signing bonuses, cash over cap. We've seen the NFL like come up with some ways to get around this. I'm sure the baseball guys would too, but that's interesting nevertheless. It would definitely hinder the ability of some teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Mets, but and it will also force teams, I guess, to spend, because if you're having like a cap, I'm imagine you'd have like a cap minimum too that you got
yeah,
to at least spend.
yeah.
Because I
So
think you
it'd
get
be
penalized in some of those other leagues too
yeah,
if you don't spend enough.
yeah. So anyways, that is our first of our many here coming up. Football previews mixed in with a little bit of baseball there. We hope you guys are enjoying this past holiday weekend, but also enjoying this summer, as it is flying by. Before we know it, we're going to be in September, and then I mean it's already halfway past through the year already. Which, can you believe that we are closer to 2050 than we are 2000? It is a wild
Insane.
thing to think about. Yeah, we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your weekend. If you've loved watching this episode on the YouTube, go and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love listening on Spotify, go ahead and share it with your friends and family. And yeah, we're going to have a great show next week. There might be a special guest depending on when we record. Yeah, my pops is in town, so maybe he'll make an appearance. We'll see when we record. But anyways, hope you guys have an amazing rest of your weekend. Until next time, we'll see you.